Confused, blown away, surprised. What is this yarny witchcraft? Hello lovelies, it's Adele here from Crow with the Flow. Today we're playing a little game of how do I choose between two of my friends' plush yarns. No, I'm just joking. I'm not actually going to choose. I'm not going to be like going at it. That would just be cruel and mean. But the situation remains. Two of my friends have recently come out with a line of plush yarns. So today I wanted to talk about some of the differences, similarities, and just work these yarns up so that you have all the information you need when it comes to shopping for local Australian designed yarn. So seriously, I'm not going to be doing a review because that just feels really ick to me. For starters, they're independent, like individually run businesses. We're not talking large corporations here. Morally, from my point of view, I've always drawn the line at doing any sorts of reviews for individuals' products. That just feels really icky to me. But what I will do is talk you through some of my observations, the things that I found when working up both the Patti's Plush from Patti and Bango's Place, Mel's yarn, and a really good chenille yarn from Zaddy Craft from Zac's yarn. So I've definitely had observations. It has completely befuddled me. And I'm going to talk you through what I experienced with each of these. So let's get started. To begin with, I got the Patti's Plush. Mel had received lots of feedback that this is quite similar to Posh yarn in the US. And then I got Zac's A Really Good Chenille yarn. And first impression was that it was a lot thicker than the Patti and Bango's Place Patti's Plush. Like, just to look at it, it was really obvious to me that it was thicker. The Patti's Plush seemed denser, like the fibres were closer to that core, whereas the fibres in the Really Good Chenille yarn were maybe longer and a little bit squishier. And again, it seemed to have the same sort of situation with the less shedding, which was excellent. If you look at a baby snuggle, it's more on the velvety end of the plush yarn spectrum. And I know that Zac has talked a bit about this. So once again, the feeling of Zac's Really Good Chenille was quite different from a baby snuggle parfait chunky style of yarn. And if we compare all three, just to look at them, even though they're all size 6 rated yarns, they all kind of do seem like slightly different from each other. Patti's Plush seems like probably the skinniest to look at, and then I would say Baby Snuggle, and then I would say Zac's is the thickest. They feel all entirely different from each other. So just from looking at these in their strands like this, I wouldn't think that I would work them together as part of a project. Whenever I'm starting with a new yarn, I like to do like little swatches just to see what hook size I'm going to use. The hook recommendations on both of these yarns were quite different. Some reason for that, Zac has specifically targeted his plush yarn to people who make toys, and people who make toys generally use smaller hook size. Zac has recommended a 5mm hook specifically for making amigurumi, whereas Patti's Plush recommends an 8mm hook, but you would generally size that down slightly. I made some swatches to see what the differences might be and how wholly the stitches get. Firstly, my observations with a 4mm hook. The swatch to the left is Baby Snuggle. I would usually use a 4mm hook with Baby Snuggle. That just works up the way I like it. The middle swatch is Patti's Plush from Patti and Bango's Place. it definitely curved more and didn't flow across the hook with a 4mm. So I absolutely have to go up a hook size for this one. And the swatch to the right is a really good chenille yarn. So again, I've used the 4mm hook and it seems to be sitting quite a bit flatter than the other one, which is strange because it's definitely thicker. And in working up the swatch, it's not really like anything I've worked with before. All right, moving on to the swatches with the 5.5mm hook. I liked this hook far more for Patti's Plush. For me, this hook size would be too gappy for the baby snuggle, and that's why I stick with the 4mm for that one. I know it's not what everyone does, but that's just what works for me. And then with the Zaddy Crafts yarn, it's definitely slightly bigger than the Patti's Plush. Are they? They're quite similar. Maybe ever so slightly bigger. That's a very good chenille yarn. So just to round it out, I also did a 5mm swatch for the Zaddy Crafts yarn. I definitely still preferred the 5.5mm. So I'm going to stick with the 5.5 for that one. And that'll also give us the option of comparing like with like with the Patti and Bango's Place. This is the colour Lorikeet. So I felt like I just had to make a rainbow Lorikeet with this yarn. It was beautiful to work up. I said I'm not going to do a review, but I will just say it was really nice on the hook. The only thing I guess I can liken it to is a blanket style yarn, but generally I don't like working with blanket yarn, but I did like working with this. It didn't have that real towely kind of feel that I just don't, sensory-wise, don't like. This one was not like that at all. When I was sewing on all of the pieces, it definitely shed a lot less than a standard baby snuggle tends to do. Like there still was a little bit, but definitely nowhere near as much. You can see the stitch definition is pretty gorgeous. So that was kind of my first introduction to these yarns. And then I got Zac's A Really Good Chenille Yarn. When I was working up the Zaddy Crafts yarn, like I said, it's not really like any yarn I've used before. It really did sit firmly right in the middle of a parfait chunky baby snuggle style of plush and a blanket style plush. You can see the stitch definition on the Lorikeet that I made out of Zaddy Crafts yarn. Again, gorgeous, worked up beautifully, flowed through my hook really nicely. Very minimal shedding with the sewing on, much less than a baby snuggle yet again. Let's get to the bit where I was just gobsmacked, confused, blown away, surprised, like what is this yarny witchcraft that is going on? And that is when I realised that actually using a 5.5mm hook for both of these yarns that looked so entirely different from each other, they both ended up exactly the same size. Exactly the same size. I do not understand. Am I doing something wrong here? Have I done something incorrectly? I don't know. I still don't think I could combine the yarns into one project, although I am going to try because I'm making some rainbow Christmas decorations. They're little, like, if it just looks all sorts of weird, then it's okay. So I will try that. But absolutely blown away at how they ended up the same size. As a third comparison point, I wanted to show you how big these worked up in comparison to Baby Snuggle Parfait Chunky. Even though I did a swatch of the Baby Snuggle in using a 5.5mm hook, I didn't want to go with that because it would just be too hollow. You'd be able to see the fibre fill through the holes, like, just no. So I use a 4mm hook when I am working with Baby Snuggle. And you can see considerably smaller with the Baby Snuggle. Now that may just be the hook size thing, but I don't think so. I think the yarn composition factors in there as well. I'm fascinated to hear if you have the same experience, if you get both Really Good Chenille yarn and Patti's Plush. And if you have the same experience with them working up to be the same size, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about these two yarns. If I don't know the answer, then I can absolutely go back to Mel and go back to Zac and ask them as well. I am beyond excited to now have some more options within the Australian plush yarn space. I will absolutely be getting more colours of both of these yarns. They are quite different, as I said. They work up, they feel ever so slightly different to work with. So I can see both of them serving a very wonderful purpose and making some amazing toys in the future. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to comment, ask any questions you like, and I'll see you later.